Hi, everybody. So I'm coming at you a few hours later. I realized I needed to make a little segment. Um, if you have any questions or comments, please on YouTube leave them below. Leave them below. Otherwise, I'll also be trying to post this on r/count with Chicken Lady with mod approval. So you can also leave your comments there. I'll be checking all those places. I might also try to post on r/ cross post with r/transgender, but I'm not really active there, so I don't know if they'll allow that. We'll see. Otherwise, I also wanted to make a note that I'm going to be trying to put timestamps with chapters so people can easily skip through and see the parts they want to see skip. Obviously, I think I talked through most of the video, but I hope you enjoy, and thanks for watching. Bye. Hello, hello. I come at you both vulnerable and anxious. So welcome, ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, femboys, furries, and people of all shapes and sizes. I am here to show you how I do my makeup femme. Um, for context, I am a trans woman. Less than a year, I've been out, and I've been doing my makeup for about 8 months now. Um, I had my wife do it twice, and then I learned. So I just want to share what I have learned with all of you, as well as some general life tips. Not planning on cutting a whole lot for this. And yeah, I'm just gonna go for it. First of all, not sponsored. Anything I show in this video, not sponsored. So let's start, because the thing that most people get lost on is the orange color concealer. If you have lighter skin with darker blue beard shadow, which you can see. Um, but the very first thing we're going to do is talk about shaving while we moisturize, because you need to moisturize your face. So typically when I shave, the best way to get really short stubble is to take a shower and then condition not just your normal hair, but also your facial hair. I tend to use both shampoo and conditioner on my beard. Uh, and then when I shave, I do typically in the shower, I do my first pass down with the grain, and then I do my second pass against the grain. Now, I do want to note that if you are not super familiar with shaving, maybe you used your beard to mask like I did for many years, uh, shaving against the grain isn't always as simple as going up. I have hairs that grow this way, or no, sorry, this way up here, and then my hairs down here grow out from my Adam's apple, which you can see I actually have a little cut here. Um, so make sure when you've shaved, both with and against the grain, you kind of feel around and check and see where your hair mappings are. That way you can more better shave in the future, I guess. Regardless. So if I can't remember if I said this, but remember to wash your hands before you start touching your face, right? That's a big one. Um, you're gonna be touching your eyes a lot and all around your face in general. So clean hands. I don't want to hear about nobody getting pink eye because they didn't wash their hands before doing their makeup. Uh, I'm sorry if this is going to be a little erratic. I'm more anxious than I thought I'd be for this, despite the fact that I've streamed quite a bit. Um, Unemployed life. Okay, uh, so we've talked about shaving. Now I just want to touch briefly on eyebrow shape. So you can see my eyebrows have a curve. Obviously, they don't grow quite the same. That's okay. Still looks pretty normal until you point it out. But I actually have hair that grows here that you can see the light skin patch there. I pluck all of this to give myself a more shapely eyebrow. And then underneath, typically what they say is if you want to have more femme eyebrows, try to pluck from underneath, because then it raises your eyebrows and makes you look more feminine. Um, I do tend to pull some from the bottom as well, but it's not, I don't know. I found once I do my eyebrows makeup, it's not really that different, but I'll get to that later. So first, a lot of people use primer. I do not prefer to use primer. I think it makes my face look kind of plasticky, but it is entirely up to you. What kind of look you're going for, how thick. Maybe you struggle more with beard shadow for some reason, like you can't get as close of a shade for whatever reason. Primer can be good for helping with that and then helping makeup stay on. Um, but for me, I do not choose to use it. So the first thing I do is the orange color corrector, which is what throws a lot of people off. The main issue I think a lot of people have with it is placement and letting it sit. The main issue with makeup as a male to female person that I've found, again, whatever, as a male to female person has been figuring out this step, because there are tutorials, but none of them seem to really match what I was looking for with it. So I kind of combined a bunch of different stuff. So as you can see, I tend to go about middle, but I also have there's I tend to have darker hair, darker beard shadow here down at the bottom. So realistically, any spot that you see darkness is somewhere you want to hit, but you do not need to go really overboard with it. And you can always add more if you haven't used enough. I would say too little for me is better than too much. So the first thing I do is I actually use a brush. I do not use a makeup sponge. Um, oh, also I should mention, this is e.l.f. Color concealer. Most of my stuff is e.l.f. because they're cruelty free and not super expensive. Um, so I use a stippling brush, which I found is much, much more effective at covering the beard shadow. When I first started, I was doing makeup sponges, but I found that it made the orange concealer run after applying the other layers. So I found one video that talked about it at least and ended up switching over to it. And yeah, it's way more effective. Um, I'm not gonna say my technique is the best, but it gets the job done. Okay, so let's just see here. Looks like I need a little bit more right here, but overall, end up here. Obviously, I have a thinning hairline, so I wear a wig. Uh, so I don't need to worry as much about up here, but I will touch it up just in case. The main thing you want to try and not do is hit too deeply out of the beard shadow area with the color corrector. Um, that obviously will cause a little bit more orange to show through. That said, I should preface this with I don't have exactly the right shade of foundation uh, and concealer. My concealer is a little bit lighter on purpose, but my foundation's not quite the right color. I'm still figuring out. I've not had the opportunity to get actually color matched. Um, but here we are. I make do with what I got, which I'm sure many of you do as well. So orange color corrector's done. Now here's I think a part a lot of people miss. You need to let it dry. Uh, I bought some cheap fans off Amazon to help it dry a little faster because I was sick and tired of waiting forever for it to dry. You'll also notice I did not use orange color concealer down under my chin at all. Um, I don't find it necessary. Again, you'll have to experiment and see if that's what you need. But for me, honestly, just the normal skin colored concealer, totally fine. Um, Problem is you need to do this for a little while because you have to make sure the orange is dry or it will mix with the other concealer and uh, and be a problem. Actually, I did forget a step. I actually have this Yerba Mate wake up gel. You're supposed to use it daily. I don't, which I imagine is quite relatable for many people who wear makeup. Uh, I have quite bad bags under my eyes most of the time. So this helps remove the bags a little bit. Uh, and I needed to do this a little earlier, but hopefully it's not a problem. Remove any excess, try to let it dry. While my orange concealer dries, it's time to be using skin color concealer under my eyes as well. So let that handle real quick. As you can see, I'm also in the awkward hair growth stage, uh, which I don't even know if it's technically going to be usable because of, unfortunately, thinning at the top. I use minoxidil and am also technically on finasteride. Uh, I've been on Spiro for 6 months, half a year, and estrogen for 3.5. So, I don't know how much of it's coming back on its own. I do have these hair filament things that I can put there that I've used before, but you can see my hair is slowly getting more wild as it dries. I showered not too long ago, so let's see. That's probably enough. Fuck it. All right. So now we have the skin tone color correct concealer, not color corrector. Made a mistake in my notes. Uh, just as I said before, if you have the opportunity before you buy concealer or foundation, go to Sephora or something, get yourself color matched. Don't randomly buy this stuff like I did. Um, so I usually start where I have purple under the eye. That was probably a little too much. That's fine. And then what we're going to do is we're actually going to go along the edge first. We're just going to make sure we're covering everything. As I said, I use a slightly lighter concealer than my actual skin tone, which I think helps. And then I use it down here as well. I'm actually going to use a little on my Adam's apple too because of how badly I cut myself. So this is a little less stippling for me. I actually don't use the right kind of brush for this. Uh, I don't contour, so I just use my contour brush and just spread it under the eye. I said probably a little too much. Again, not a big deal if it doesn't look perfect. You gotta, as they say, trust the process. We're gonna be covering this with foundation anyway, so totally fine if it looks strange for now. You just gotta wait for the end. I remember when I first started, I was so off-put by how I looked while doing makeup. Right. Now let's make sure we got this all covered. There we go. Already looking much better. Make sure you get anywhere there's orange. Do, do, do. The main issue with makeup I found is that it's a long, long process. Um, Even if I'm just doing basic stuff, it can take me sometimes 2 hours to get ready from beginning to end, from shaving to putting everything on, which is not ideal for getting ready for work when I finally find a job. Duh, duh, duh. And just finish up down here. Go a little bit further than I usually do. I usually don't go this far. I'm gonna note too, I don't usually try to cover or blend anything with my eyeshadow. My eyeshadow, Jesus. I talk about blending and I talk about eyeshadow. With my Adam's apple. I actually just use a choker, as I will show later, which I think helps draw attention away from it, even though it's almost right on top of it. Okay, I think this is actually pretty good. This turned out pretty well. So, there you have concealer. Under the eyes are probably a little too heavy, as I said, might a little too much. It's fine, not a big deal. So, now we have our foundation. I use a medium coverage foundation. Again, I found that the full coverage didn't do enough to cover the beard shadow. That and still made my face look really plasticky. So I use, once again, e.l.f. soft gel. Again, have the wrong skin color of this. So I'm going to look a little bit more orange than I should. But honestly, because I've been out so much this summer, I have a little bit more of a tan. It's not as noticeable. I don't even know how much you'll notice on the camera. Cameras are your friends. Don't forget that. Let's see. So this is pretty straightforward. Oh, I'm gonna need more of this. I again use a brush pretty much the same way. Actually, I didn't let this dry. Sorry. As I said, I was going to be a little bit of a mess for this. Anxiety. I don't normally do videos where I just talk to the camera without a chat or anything. It's quite different for me. But I hope I'm being informative and can help some people out with this, because Lord knows I just put together a bunch of. I've watched so many videos and just had to figure stuff out as time went on. Okay, so letting the skin color one dry isn't as much of a big deal. Ideally, I would let it dry a little bit longer. Go ahead and thin. I don't worry about it right now. Anyway, so I usually just start by dotting around and then just going at it. We're going to cover pretty much everything. I still kind of stipple, but uh, I will just brush where necessary as well, like under the eyes. So weird. If you'd asked me literally a year ago, hey, are you gonna make a makeup tutorial? No, never. Never would have done it. I found that estrogen has decreased my social anxiety quite a bit. Uh, it is much more manageable than it used to be. Before I started estrogen, just a few months ago, I mean, I always struggled even in MMOs. I grew up playing Warcraft. I don't play anymore these days. Um, but I couldn't even tank because I got too anxious about it. And there we go, that's that. I do want to set expectations too. I meant to do this at the beginning, but unfortunately, you will never fully be free of your beard shadow. However, I've found that doing things with this process whether you make yourself slightly orange or not, uh, it only really becomes noticeable to you. I'm just gonna try and get some of these lighter spots here. Um, as I said, one of the big things to keep in mind with makeup is that most people are not getting that close to your face, or nor should they be getting that close to your face. So, try not to get it in your eyes, but I tend to do, I don't know, it kind of depends on whether I go over my eyelids or not. If I'm not wearing eyeshadow, I usually do. If I'm not, or no, sorry, if I am wearing eyeshadow, sometimes I don't go over my eyes. But just make sure that if you're not, you're getting everything even. Again, don't get it in your eyes. And just cover every little bit. Again, sorry for being slow. It's just me. I've always been a slowpoke. Patience. All right. I think that's pretty good. It's good enough. Never gonna be, nothing's ever gonna be perfect. You try as hard as you want, but it will not. Now, powder. Finishing powder I found also makes a pretty big difference. The powder brush. Again, e.l.f. finishing powder. This is Halo Glow Powder Filter. Fair, neutral, cool. Again, not really my color. Someday I'll go get color match. But again, just kind of works. It is what it is. You get what you can if you're too anxious, like I was. This is the spot on my nose. There we go. Boop, boop, boop. And roll with it. If you don't want to go to a store because you're nervous, you want to order makeup, take your best guess. There are things online for figuring out, oh, how do I, how do I figure out my uh my skin tone, whatever. And it's never going to be perfect, obviously. Uh, it's going to be trial and error. So what you could do is buy cheap makeup at the beginning, see if you can find something that's close, and then switch to a nicer one. Actually, my first foundation was a Wet n Wild, and that was not really good. And oh, already looking much better with the finishing powder. And boom. Again, you want to make sure you get pretty much everywhere. Sometimes I use it on my eyes, sometimes I don't, because it bothers my eyes if I do it there. So try to get under the eyes again. So again, we just wanted to conceal just to lighten up a little there. We didn't want to go overboard. And the bottom. Let's see, how am I looking on the camera? Yeah, you can't even really tell that. You can see a little bit of the line here from orange to white, but really not that noticeable. And the beard shadow, as I said, actually I'm kind of shining in the camera because of the ring light. You can, if you're gonna have your ears exposed, remember to do your ears as well. Wig I have, do not need to worry about it. As I said, you can still kind of see the beard shadow. You're never gonna fully be rid of it, but a lot of the times you can get to good enough where people won't notice it. You will notice it. You will always notice it if it gives you dysphoria. Until you can get the damn thing lasered off, if that's your angle. But as I was saying before, cameras are your friend, and not looking at yourself close up in the mirror is your friend. Most people aren't getting that close to you, so please, I will give this reminder again at the end, but if you do your makeup and you look at yourself and you're like, oh, this sucks, I don't look good, whatever, step away for 15, 20 minutes, and then walk past a mirror while looking at yourself and see how that makes you feel. I found often giving myself space and time away after I've done makeup and been staring at myself close up, I think I look much better after that point. A lot less critical. Okay, let's see. Sorry, just getting organized. So that's all that stuff. Now I'm gonna do blush, because blush helps quite a bit with making you look alive when wearing makeup. Obviously, this is an optional step, but I found it makes pretty decent difference, at least when I notice. So typically for me, again, I don't know what the rules are for this technically. I just kind of wing it. So I start high up on my cheek, and then I go up and around. I don't know how well this is shown up. It looks like it's showing up pretty well. You obviously, how much you want to use is up to you, but I typically do a nice little bit around there, and then I just kind of, wow, blend it in. Blend it around, baby. There you go. Nice light blush. That not too bad. And then I do the same on the other side, trying to match where I was, which is difficult in its own way. Just create a little base here, and then go up, and then the side. Do a bit more. Ba, 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 ba. And bam. There we go. A little bit of life. And then one little bit on the nose. Here we go. Bang. Looks pretty, I don't want to say natural, but normal. I found it helps me look, I much prefer how I look with blush than without blush. But again, it's always up to you. So that concludes the face skin stuff. Now we're getting into eyes. So usually, oh, actually, first, accessories. I always try to put all my accessories now so I don't forget, because if I start doing my eyes and lips and stuff, I will often forget. So usually once I'm done with all of my skin stuff, I put on a choker. I don't know how I messed up my hair putting on an elastic choker, but usually I put my choker right under my Adam's apple. Wow, look at that. And then some kind of neckwear. Most of my neckwear is dragons, fantasy, etc. I'll go with this one because I friggin' love this necklace. Sword and a dragon, 10 out of 10. Kind of fits a goth aesthetic of using a cross as well, if you're into that. And then this makes a difference once everything's put together. You can try it with and without. Again, trial and error. That's what this is all about. So now I'm going to do I'll start with my eyebrows actually. So, where are you? There you are. Eyebrow brush, very thin. Because my wig is darker, I mean, I have dark hair as well, so I'd still probably use this. But typically, you want to match a similar color to what your wig is and your natural eyebrow color. So I use, hold on, I gotta remember to show this Kambe Supreme Seductress Prism Makeup. It's got some nice reds and browns in it. Recently, I've really only been using the dark brown that's in here for my eyebrows. So I think this is a little bit different from how a lot of people do their makeup, the way I do my eyebrows. So typically I start at the edge. Don't be afraid to make a mistake. Eyeshadow's very easy to clean up, uh, on your eyebrows especially. So don't be afraid to mess up. Typically, I start at the very edge and go up, following the line, and I start at the top. So, I'm sorry, I'm trying my best to actually show this to the camera as well. So I go along the top first. You can see I went a little over there. That's okay. See? Bang. It's gone. No problems. And I go all the way. And then I usually go past by a little bit. And that will become important later when we're doing eyeliner, because I use it as a guide. But let's see. So I typically go across here. So again, remember what I said earlier about people saying higher eyebrows create more feminine looks. So I start at the top. No, I start on the inside technically, but then from the top. And then what I do is go across and connect it at an angle. So my eyebrows are slightly darker at the top and lighter at the bottom. I need to blend this a little bit more, but it creates the illusion of slightly higher eyebrows, which is nice. And then just again, kind of clean up around, see what you got. Oop, oop, oop. My eyebrows are not cooperating. If you do have an eyebrow brush, it's probably helpful. This literally has one on the other side, but I didn't use it because I'm a fool. Let's see. I think it's good enough. Again, most people aren't looking at it that closely. My wig has a fringe, so it kind of covers the eyebrows as well. Highly recommend a fringed wig in many ways, but it's kind of up to your personal choice of style. And you can see my eyebrows grow differently here. They grow way up and out. They're very hard to tame, but honestly, it doesn't make that much of a difference. Most people, as I said, are not paying that close attention. So, it's fine. Have fun with it. It's all about how you like to look. Generally, I try to keep the angle somewhat the same, but, you know, my eyebrows are not symmetrical, so I just kind of go for it. Just generally try to make sure you're filling in so you don't have big gaps of no eyeshadow on your eyebrows. I gotta figure out if I'm adding any music to this or anything. Alright, let's clean up a little bit again. Here we go. Perfect. Yeah, not perfect, but as I said, good enough. Good enough. Alright, so that's eyebrows done. How am I looking? I can't. Monitors over here, obviously. Uh, Again, I think it's looking pretty good. Don't be afraid to redo stuff. And again, it's all about how it looks when it comes together. So now, I'm going to use gel eyeliner. This is liquid gel. No, I got it. This is a Wet n Wild breakup proof, waterproof, retractable gel eyeliner. You can't really see it, but just a little pen. I'm actually almost out of this one. I think I have another, but just a little bit of gel eyeliner. And we're going to do this under our eyes. The cap fell. Okay. So this got me. I really struggled with this in the beginning. So you need to pull your eyes down and you're trying to follow the water line. Not on, you're not trying to make, you don't put it somewhere where it's going to go in your eye. You're trying to follow just above where the eyelashes are. So just want to make sure everyone can see. My eyes will water. They always water. They're very sensitive. How far you go over with it is up to you. I typically go from the very outer edge to, if I'm looking straight ahead, to where my iris ends. Yeah. And then just go a little darker here because still filling out. Okay. It's kind of a bitch to get off. So there's your warning for that. Um, I find this is the gel eyeliner is the thing that's hardest to get off when removing makeup. We got a little bit of eye gook. Okay. Do. I apologize for the video being so long, but I wanted to make sure that people got to see the whole process rather than just me cutting and going around. As I said, I take my time with this stuff, which is probably good for tutorials. Let's see, is that good? Maybe a little darker. There we go. Bang. Make sure eyes pop a little bit. And then once we do eyeliner, you'll see how that comes together because it looks really nice once the eyeliner's on. Let's see. Eyebrows, gel. So, let's see. How long is this? 37? Actually, we're doing pretty good on time. I think doing this video is keeping me on task, which is very hard for me. ADHD on estrogen has been much worse. Uh, yeah. Let's do some eyeshadow. This might clash a little bit with what I'm wearing. It's fine. Uh, I might get changed after. We'll see. But I actually use ColourPop stuff. I found ColourPop eyeshadow to be great. This Amethyst palette is awesome. It's got some really nice shades of purple and some nice pinks. Very good at blending. Actually, it looks kind of blue on my camera, but it is a pretty vibrant, shiny purple, and I love it. Um, so, I'm trying to think about how to do this. Normally, I would just take my finger, honestly, and put it in the eyeshadow palette and just kind of go at it. I'm going to use an applicator instead. I do want to mention, though, you'll notice when I look at the camera with my eyes open, you can't see my eyelids. I have extremely folded eyelids. There's nothing. You can't see my eyelids at all. So this process is different depending on your type of eyelids. If you have ones that show more, great. You don't need to go as high. Instead, all of my real estate is basically just this tiny area and then under the eye. So let's see. I might screw this up. I haven't done my eyeshadow in a while because I'm lazy. Uh, but just put some on the applicator and just go for it. dun. Obviously, you can use an eyeshadow brush. I've found, though, that that does not stick well for me. I end up just going over and over the same area, and it just will not stick. I'm gonna get it close without going in my eye, which is always fun. Oh, I love this eyeshadow so much. It's so good. Shout out to my wife for funding a lot of my early makeup and all of the techniques I've learned. Well, a lot of the techniques I've learned. A lot of stuff I've had to learn on my own, like the eyeshadow, because she has beautiful eyes that she can easily show off all of her eyeshadow on when she chooses to. How's that look? Okay, so a little bit higher there, but eyelids covered at least. I often have a little bit of the as Jenna Marbles called it back in the day, the too much gene when it comes to eyeshadow. Go a little bit too far over, a little bit too high. It's not rounded enough, etc., etc. So, nope, still need to go higher. Basically, you're just, if you have folded eyebrows, you're trying to follow the lower edge side of the brow. Again, just takes experimentation. It's not always the easiest. So I get it. This is definitely something I still struggle with in many ways. Went too high there. Here's the too much. Shoop. Shoop. I do have Q-tips here. I could literally use Q-tips. One. There we go. Let's go a little bit heavier on the other side now. Okay. Boom. I think that's pretty good for the top. Now, here, how far you do the eyeshadow under the eye is, again, up to you. Sometimes I just do it up to where I end the gel eyeliner. Sometimes I go all the way around. So we'll see how it turns out today. A lot of time for this part, I will actually use a detail brush. I'm just gonna go at it with the applicator though and see how it goes. There you go. It's not, yeah, simple, clean. Kind of has a nice little contrast at the bottom here. Again, you can connect it if you wish. It is entirely up to you. I will re-decide after I'm fully ready. You can always put it on later. Um, Now for the other eye. And this is one of the things I really struggle with, is symmetry. Trying to get my eyeshadow symmetrical. I feel like with the eyeliner, it doesn't matter quite as much, which we'll get into once we're there. But the eyeshadow, I feel like it looks a little funky if it's not. If it's just like a little off, it's not noticeable, but trying to get it fully symmetrical is kind of a problem. Also, I keep like whispering because I'm focusing. Let my anxieties calm down. Ah, shit. Got some there. Wet Q-tip and lightly go over it. It's really funny because my favorite color combinations are black, red, and this type of darkish purple. You it Before I started my transition, I was much more on the black and red, primary black, secondary red, tertiary purple. Now, I kind of leaning more towards purple than red. Still primary black, but I don't think that's ever going to change. It can be a little bit easier to get symmetrical if you're using a brush, but again, it really depends on uh, the color you're using. This, I would say, is probably more okay to use with a brush, but if you're using a light eyeshadow, there's no shot. Like, you I don't think I've ever had a light eyeshadow couldn't that I could use a brush for. I pretty much have to use my finger, otherwise it just does not show up. Maybe I do need to use more, get a little bit higher on both sides. I mean, it's not like I'm usually looking down, but it's hard to tell exactly. I'm usually well, we'll start with the under eye and we'll see how that looks from there. Again, always clean up a little bit. Mm, doesn't look quite as clean. Let's do a little bit of this. Try not to go too high, but yeah, there we go. Okay, so just leaving my eyes a little more exposed, trying not to get it too high. I was semi-successful there. Again, not going to be perfect. It's never going to be perfect. No, I can't say never. If you become a professional makeup artist, maybe. I'm not much of a visual artist, but generally, this is nice. I think part of the reason I like the purple eyeshadow so much is because my eyes are on the greeny blue side. So purple makes my eyes pop a little bit more. We'll leave that there for now, and we can always come back to it. So now, eyeliner. This is where a lot of people struggle. So once again, I'm using Wet n Wild breakup proof, skinny, waterproof liquid eyeliner. I have used both this style of pen brush and the other kind of brush, which I don't know how to explain. It's just a small brush that's not pointed. I found I think originally I liked the other brush type more, but now I think I can be a little more consistent with the pen type. So I'm going to explain before I start. So when doing wings, you want to follow your waterline up, and I usually do smaller wings. I don't do big wings because I'm scared. I'm keeping it simple so I can look how I want to look, basically, without risking too much with how long it already takes me. I usually go out from the waterline to about equal with where I overdrew my eyebrow as far as distance this way. So let's see how this goes. Oop. Knocking my phone around. I don't always have the steadiest hands. Boop. And then I usually try to cut across horizontally to, once again, the end of my iris. I use the end of my iris for a lot of these measurements. Just cut across. And again, rather, you would get too little to start and you can add more, rather than too much right away and have to try to retract eyeliner, which is a little more difficult than the eyeshadow. So I have little rounded wings. Can make them more pointed if you wish. And then because of my folded eyelids, I need to let it dry. Usually just a couple seconds is sufficient. And boom, one wing. Now, this is a very common saying in makeup. Actually, I think I have too much over here, but it's fine. Very common saying in makeup. Sisters, not twins. You do not need to perfectly match your wings. People aren't going to notice. If they're that far off. If they're really far off, they might. But generally, they do not need to be perfectly symmetrical, right? Out and in. Again, this is probably just going to take you practice because everyone's eye shapes are different. But I've found having a consistent technique of somewhere you can measure makes a huge difference in consistency. Just trying to fix small errors. And boom. It's pretty good. It's not quite as long, so let's go a little bit longer. It's a little more pointed than the other one. That's okay. Yeah, I'll take that. Again, once the mascara goes on, that draws away attention from all of the itty bitty mistakes you can make. Uh, it all comes together. You stop noticing the small, tiny errors once you add more and more layers. That's the nice thing about this whole process. I actually use some eyelash curlers. Usually they make my eyes water, but I found it makes my eyes look much more feminine when they're curled up. So, usually, I've never actually looked at instructions on how to use these. Typically, I start with the base, hold really hard for like 5 or 10 seconds, release, and then go up a little higher and do the same. Bam. You can already see the difference, at least in person. I don't know if you can catch it on the camera, but. All right, next ones. Towards the top. Missed. Two, Mississippi, three, Mississippi, four, Mississippi, five, Mississippi, six, Mississippi, seven, Mississippi, eight, Mississippi. Good enough. Boom. Curled eyebrows. Eyebrows? Eyelashes. All right. Mascara. Right. Supposed to show this stuff. Uh, Currently, again, Elf Lash and Roll. This actually, I don't think I like this as much as the last one I had. but I don't remember what it's called. So this one works. It works well. I got no complaints. As for where I put the mascara on, I actually have less visible eyelashes on the interior. So I go past a little bit of the iris, and trying to get the tips is sometimes a pain. There you go. And I usually do get some on me somewhere while I do this, usually on the bottom lashes. Look at that. Beautiful. What a nice combo. And then eyelash stuck to it. Bottom. It is very difficult for me to not get this on my eyes. Sorry, below my eyes. Once again, try to go about the same distance over. And all the way to the outer edge. Boom. Good enough. Yeah, actually, I say that. It doesn't seem to be sticking as well to my lower eyelashes. There we go. That'll do. Again, people aren't getting that close to your face. At least they shouldn't be. And if they are, hopefully, sometimes I stab myself in the eye as well, and then get a bunch of mascara there as well. Regardless, if they are getting that close to your face, hopefully it's for good reasons. And I'm sure at that point, they are not judging your makeup. Not that you should associate with anyone who's going to judge your makeup like that anyway. It's always, I find it's fine to offer advice if someone wants it. I would not solicit it though, unless there was something really off. But a lot of people just aren't used to wearing makeup either, so it's trial and error. I got very lucky that I had a wife who not only accepted all of my everything I was going through, but also could teach me the basics of makeup. I feel like, what happened to my gel eyeliner? It like washed off on this side. I'm gonna have to add more. I've never had that happen before. Clump off there. Boom. A little bit more up here. There we go. That'll do. It's funny how much I start to feel better about my appearance once I get to like this step. Um, for some reason, also, whenever I finish my eye makeup, eyes start watering, nose starts running. There we go. So, looking good, looking fly. Not you, you. I really gotta switch my new one of these, and then I gotta clean up the mascara I completely forgot about. Man, I know I mentioned it already, but I cannot believe how much worse my ADHD has gotten since I started estrogen. It is insane. I didn't even know that was a thing until it started happening. Cute. Hopefully this doesn't take off too much eyeshadow. Okay, I think that'll do. All right, now for my favorite but least favorite part, lipstick. So, I actually struggle quite a bit with having symmetrical lipstick. I often have uh, uneven. Obviously, my lips, everyone's lip shapes are different, so maybe you'll have an easier time. I used to overline. I actually don't overline anymore. We're gonna see how this goes. I'm always a little bit nervous when I do this because I always fuck it up in some way. But again, that's what Q-tips are for. Although, with how many I've used, I only have one left in here, so might have to get more. Mm, so, a couple things actually before I do this. Typically, I just follow. I have this thin, uh, lighter colored line from my lips between the shadow. Usually, I just go to the end of the darker skin of my lips and just follow that these days. If you want to overline, you can try to use the light as a guide. That said, my lips are not symmetrical either, especially because I have a scar on this side. Um, so I kind of have to wing it. The other thing is I've actually found dark lipsticks are much more flattering on me than light colored lipsticks. That could just be because of I don't even want to say the dark color of the wig, but I've just found generally darker colored lipsticks are feminizing, and I love black lipstick. I think it is definitely looks best on me. I don't know if my wife agrees with that, but I have some dark purples. I have a red. I have some lighter pinks, but every time I put the lighter pink on, I'm just like, this does not work for me. Even if I have like a nice light matching eyeshadow with it. So I use NYX lipstick. Love it. I love NYX. Stays very well. Doesn't tend to get like really crumbly after sitting for a while. If you eat like pizza or something, it can come off. But obviously, make sure you have stuff like your foundation and lipstick with you if you're going out. That way you can do touch-ups. I have heard people do orange concealer too, but I don't really know how that works. I've never done it. Um, but foundation, powder, lipstick for sure. All right. So I'm just gonna follow my lip line as best as I can. And don't be afraid again to start small and then add more. I'm actually gonna get rid of some of the excess there. Sometimes I feel like I'm on a painting palette. Yeah, went a little too far there. That's okay. Making mistakes, part of the process, baby. As long as you're trying. This is something you want to do, try it. You're going to think you look ridiculous at first, but I promise once you have the whole thing together, you're going to love it. Well, maybe not all of you, but a lot of you. You're here for a reason. A little messy. It's okay. Okay, let's clean up. go a little bit more because this side's not. Hmm. Again, if you have any way of measuring anything, makes a huge difference in symmetry. So if you can find places on your face you can measure to around your lips, makes a difference. Good. Can't fully tell. It looks like I went a little lower on this side. I don't want to say left and right because I don't know what the camera is doing with the. Okay. It's fine. Just clean up from there. What the hell? That's the other problem with lipstick is it gets fucking everywhere if you fuck it up. Oh, I think that looks pretty decent. Again, not perfect, but decent. Let's see. When I stand back, I'll be able to see myself a little bit better as well. So, now for the final touch. The coup de grace. Da-da. The wig. This is what pulls the entire thing together. Obviously, if you do not desire a wig and you just want to do makeup, that's totally fine. I use a synthetic hair wig. Uh, I do technically have some other ones, but this one so far has been my favorite. Again, the fringe kind of got to decide where I want it to sit. But bam, there you go. Stand back. You can't see a ton of the beard shadow. Again, it will always be noticeable to you, but I promise you, take a step back, don't think about it for a bit, and then walk past a mirror and look at yourself, and then come back to that mirror and look at yourself. You will not notice it. Uh, okay, I can't make that 100% promise. But as you can see, I am much different from how I first started this video. The only, let's see, I do have some other stuff I wanted to talk about. Oh yeah, so synthetic wig care a little bit is a pain in the ass. I've watched so many videos. And my ends are dry. I need to reseal them with straight, and then figure out how to do waves as well. I've never used a straightener before, or a steamer. I've heard steamers work well too, but again, do your research about it. Wash it every couple weeks, etc., depending on how much you're wearing it. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about was skirts. So, skirts are interesting. As someone who wore masculine clothes for most of my life, I never wore high waisted stuff. I found it a little bit difficult to get used to. Move back further. That said, I actually really like skirts now. If you're going to wear a skirt, there are three ways to wear it. One is shirt fully untucked. One is shirt fully tucked, and then there's this way that has like you pull out the shirt a little bit. Depends on the skirt that you're wearing and the shirt that you're wearing. I found with a lot of my shirts, and this skirt in particular, I like how it looks more pulled out a little bit. So just give it a try, see what you like. And then let me move this. That's there we go. So the last thing is the femininity of legs. If you really feel that you don't have feminine legs, or you don't feel like shaving, whatever reason, um, stockings make a huge fucking difference. I love stockings, tights, whatever. They are so good at showing off your legs. Um, Now, I am a little biased because I think I'm not someone who is traditionally attracted to people who are masculine. But I think even men in tights are kind of hot. So, uh, or sorry, I should say masculine people in tights. Um, Apologies. Just got Robin Hood on the mind, I guess. Yeah, so I mean, I think that pretty much covers everything. Video's an hour and 10 minutes. Sorry it takes so long. It's kind of the reality of needing to do 3 layers of facial makeup, and then all the other bits and bobs. Obviously, I said I'm pretty slow, but this actually went much faster than I was expecting. I was expecting to be doing this for a while. And as you can see, if I sit back here, you won't notice any of the mistakes that I've made. I mean, sure, I'm sure some of you are like, oh no, I see. Who cares? It's fun. I feel like I look cute. It's great. 10 out of 10. Would recommend. So that pretty much finishes it. Thank you all for watching. Whoever needed to see this. I wish everyone luck in their own journeys. I hope that you can enjoy this whole process. I have loved being on HRT and experiencing all of the differences that it brings. Um, so, yeah, I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful day. Thank you.